Before we get into this special weekend edition of Just the Truth, let me tell you about the latest special from Michael and Dell at MyPillow. The standard MyPillow, normally $49.98, for a limited time only, just $14.88 with promo code Joey. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio listener specials, and see all the specials. There's a limited quantity of just 10 at this special price. That's $14.88 with promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Joining me on our guest line today is Bette Bronson, Vice President of Education for Junior Achievement of South Carolina. Bette, thank you, first of all, for your time today. Take a minute and give us the 30,000-foot view of what Junior Achievement is doing.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you for having me. Junior Achievement has been around in South Carolina since 1968, serving students in kindergarten through 12th grade with work readiness, entrepreneurship, and financial literacy curriculum via volunteer engagement. So we send volunteers into the classroom to share curriculum and to teach students about financial literacy and becoming work ready.
Now, tell us about your personal story. What drew you to the mission of Junior Achievement here in South Carolina, and how has your role evolved since you joined the organization?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I've always found myself in roles, nonprofit roles, serving communities, students in a lot of different ways. And Junior Achievement at the time for me, about 10 years ago, it was a part-time job. I was living in Columbia, and I had been a stay-at-home mom for a while, and I saw this opportunity just to be able to work a few hours a week, really making an impact in our community and in South Carolina. As a native South Carolinian, that felt important, and so I started just part-time, and then gradually over the years, this role, just in the beginning as a program manager, turned into leading a program team that was supporting thousands of students receiving JA materials around the state. When I started, we were reaching about 12,000 students, and this year we're looking to reach over 40,000 students here in South Carolina. And so it has been quite a journey and definitely a rewarding one.
Wow, 40,000 students. That's pretty amazing.
It is. And we've grown. Kind of what's been able to make that possible and that leap is that in the last 10 years we consolidated with our upstate JA office, and so Junior Achievement is a national nonprofit, but we have about 99 JA areas around the country. And here in South Carolina, we're one now. We consolidated with the Low Country probably 15 years ago, and then JA of the Upstate, and so now we're able collectively to reach the state as one entity, which really makes it a whole lot easier. I feel like we reach more and we impact better that way. But we also have expanded and extended our programs in the last 3 years by bringing in and starting 2 new experiential learning programs called JA Finance Part for our high school students, which is a budgeting simulation, and then JA BizTown, which is a 5th grade program where students learn to run a town for a day. So it's a field trip. Both are field trip type experiences that are simulations, and so that has also helped us expand our reach.
Bette Bronson is my guest today. She is Vice President of Education for Junior Achievement of Greater South Carolina. Let's spend a little more time on those projects, JA BizTown Mobile and JA Finance Park Mobile. Give us a little more detail, Bette, of what these programs are.
So JA Finance Park is, like you mentioned, it's mobile, and so it travels the state. In order just to make it equitable, we knew we could build a building, in Columbia, but we knew that we couldn't get students from the Low Country and the Upstate and, pockets and corners of our state back and forth to Columbia in a day. And so we've put it on wheels, in a sense. Our mobile units pop up within the school and serve students over the course of typically a week. And so we like to stay in one place. And so currently, JA Finance Park has been in Charleston at the Cooper River Center for Advanced Studies. we were at Greer High School this fall, and so we set up, and in JA Finance Park, there are 20 storefronts, and so students come in and they get a persona for the day. They have a tablet, so it's a simulation. They don't know what their job and their persona is going to be, but they come in and they may be a doctor, or they may be a bus driver, or they may be, really the gamut of jobs. So they come in, they get a gross monthly income, a credit score. They may have children, they may not. They may be married, they may be a single parent. And so they get this life scenario, and then they travel through our simulation, visiting each storefront and budgeting, creating a budget with that net monthly income that they see once taxes are removed, which is sometimes an eye-opener for students. They see that gross and they're excited, and then they realize, oh, they don't quite have that much to spend. And so we use volunteers in this simulation. They come in and are kind of like mentors behind each of the storefronts. So Publix is our grocery storefront. State Farm is a part of this. And so part of what makes JA Finance Park possible are these business partners and sponsorships that come in. The Hospital Association of South Carolina supports us, Colonial Life, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Bank of America, I could go on. And so our students are visiting those storefronts, and they're budgeting with, the allowance they've been given. And then they turn around after they've budgeted, and then they have to go back and spend that budget. And it really is a rewarding experience. We have a full-time finance park manager that travels with the simulation and guides the students through the experience.
Yeah. So, Bette, when you were talking about these programs and them being at schools, when do students do this? Is this during class time, or is this after school, weekends? When do these programs take place?
That's a great question. So all of JA programs come with a curriculum component. So in advance of JA Finance Park and JA BizTown, educators are implementing and supporting the program by teaching curriculum that prepares the student for the culminating event, or the simulation, or the field trip experience. And so it may start weeks in advance in the classroom, and then students come to JA Finance Park or JA BizTown, and it is a 3.5 to 4 hour simulation on one day. And then when they're back in the classroom after the experience, there is a wrap-up lesson that the educator will we use with the students.
Yeah. Bette Bronson is my guest today. She's Vice President of Education with Junior Achievement of Greater South Carolina. I'd love for you to talk a little more about that partnership with the schools, and you talked about the curriculum and teachers, but is there also opportunities for volunteers to go into the schools and work with the kids as well?
There is, absolutely. So really, volunteers is what makes junior achievement possible. We, last year, I think, used over 500 volunteers across the state in our programs, from the upstate to the low country. And with JA Finance Park, volunteers are, coming in for a one day. They come, we train them the morning of. Same with BizTown. They come in around 8:30, 8:45. We have about a 30-minute orientation to get them ready, and then they are given everything they need to lead successfully. And honestly, as a JA volunteer, a lot of the time you're just sharing your own experiences as, a human in the world and that has budgeted and experienced financial pitfalls, and they're there really just to share their own experiences and to encourage students to be wise with the money that they have. And then as they stand behind those storefronts in JA Finance Park, we give them little cue cards, and they're engaging the student in a conversation around, well, if you have this much money, how much are groceries in South Carolina? What's the family of four? What's the average grocery, monthly, needed for groceries? And so they're engaging students so they can be thoughtful about how they budget. The same thing is true for JA BizTown with our 5th grade program. Those volunteers are there just to make sure our students are following directions and just being a business mentor as those students are learning how to run a little business in JA BizTown.
Yeah. Bet, if someone who's listening today says, gosh, I'd really like to be involved in that, how does one become involved with Junior Achievement?
So I'm sure you'll be sharing our website. We've got a volunteer link there. You can reach out to us, and we will connect you with everything you need in order to get on board. Coming up in the upstate, we're going to be at Pickens Career and Technology Center in a couple weeks. Let's see, in February 23rd, that week. We're going to be there reaching students in Pickens County. So high schools are going to come in. We'll serve the students there at the Career Center and then also from the surrounding schools. And so we'd love if anybody's hearing this and you're like, live in the upstate, want to drive over or live in the community, reach out to us. greatersc.ja.org is our website. And one of our program managers will get you what you need in order to participate. There or anywhere else. We have lots of opportunities.
Sure. And again, that's greatersc.ja.org. They have a great website, tells you all about the various programs and a way for you to reach out and be in contact with them. Now, of course, volunteers are important, but also sponsors in the business community. Talk with us about some of those partnerships. You mentioned Publix earlier, but you have many partnerships. Talk with us about those, and maybe there's a business person out there listening who would like to be a part too.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. In JA BizTown, if we kind of talk about this elementary school program, students are running businesses, everything from the radio to the bank, to a general store. And so right now in JA BizTown, United Community is our bank, and which is wonderful. So students are, they get real name tags with Universal Banker, CEO, CFO of those of the United Community. And then Blanchard Machinery is also a sponsor where students getting exposed to what does that industry do? What do they do? The Manufacturing Alliance of South Carolina CPA Association. So they're coming on board, organizations like that, kind of exposing students to jobs and opportunities. What does South Carolina make? And in BizTown, there's some business-to-business transactions, which is really cool. So students are learning, in manufacturing, they're putting together puzzles, maybe like a car puzzle that's being delivered to Auto. Auto is being charged for that manufactured car, and so students are learning kind of how the economy works. But storefronts right now that are open in JA BizTown are things like our Achieve Mart, our general store, our radio, our city hall. We have just a generic city hall. So if we don't have a sponsor, those storefronts are open just as generic. But we are growing and building, and we serve more students when we have more sponsors. We can be on the road more days. It costs about $80 per student to make JA BizTown possible. And those sponsorships, we take on as much of the cost as we can so that we're not turning that over to the school district or schools to pay.
Yeah.
So.
Bette Bronson is with Junior Achievement of Greater South Carolina. You mentioned the sponsorships costs. It does take money to make this possible. Looking ahead into the spring and summer, you have some great events coming up. I always enjoy participating in your upstate golf tournament. Talk with us about some of those and some of those opportunities that will be coming up soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. That golf tournament is June 12th at the Preserve at Verde. So, put that on your calendar. It is a fun event. It sells out quick, and golfers love it. They're pampered at every hole with something special, and so that is definitely something to put on your calendar. We just last week had our Upstate JA Stock Market Challenge. We'll be back next year for that again. We have one coming up in Charleston on February the 24th at Trinity Hall there. So if you're hearing this and you live in the Low Country and want to be a part of a really fun event, students participate in the Stock Market Challenge event in the morning, and then we have an evening fundraiser with adult teams, and it is a simulated day. Every team receives $1 million. It's a 60-minute game. Every minute represents one day, and news alerts and updates throughout the simulation are what kind of guides, what you're selling, what you're buying, what you're trading. It's a whole lot of fun. So that's coming up in the Low Country. And then also, event-wise in the upstate, something I hadn't mentioned is that we partner with Greenville County Schools and serve middle school students with a reverse job shadow opportunity. And so we have several of those that are still scheduled for the spring in Greenville middle schools. It's a 2-hour volunteer commitment where we provide you with the curriculum and lesson plan that you need for that time, but then also it's a career speaker event or opportunity. So you really get to talk about yourself, what you do, why you do what you do, the lessons you've learned in business. And so several of those are coming up. So please reach out if you are interested in getting involved at the middle school level in Greenville County this spring.
Yep. And again, that website is greatersc.ja.org. You can find out additional information on all of these events, and let me encourage you to please support a fabulous organization that's reaching a lot of students across South Carolina. Bette, thank you for what you do. Thanks for your time again, and I look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Thank you, Joey.
Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Email's always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Today we're talking about legislation that would officially designate June the 1st as Gold Shield Day in South Carolina, a day set aside to honor first responders who were killed in the line of duty, and importantly, the families they left behind. Joining me now is Lieutenant David Weiner with the Greenville County Sheriff's Office to explain why this recognition matters and what it could mean for communities across our state. Lieutenant, welcome to the show.
Hey, good morning, sir.
Let's talk for a minute, if you will, for folks maybe who are just hearing about this for the first time. What exactly is Senate Bill 868? What would it and what would designated June 1st as Gold Shield Day mean for South Carolina?
So 868 would recognize the families of all the fallen first responders, something that no other state in the United States has ever done. So South Carolina would be the first that would allow us to celebrate or at least recognize a day to honor them and remember them, to let them know that they're not forgotten.
Yeah. This bill doesn't create a paid holiday or doesn't cost taxpayers anything, is my understanding. Why was it important that this be a recognition day without any fiscal burden? I mean, I don't see how anyone could object to it, since it's not going to cost anything and it's going to recognize these men and women and their families.
Right. No, and we haven't met any resistance. It's moved very quickly through subcommittee and committee, and it's headed to the floor of the Senate now. And I think it'll cross over to the House, and we should have the same success there, I hope.
Yeah. Talk with us about that process. I mean, who came up with the idea and who has sort of taken the ball and to run with it?
There have just been several of us up here in the upstate that recognized that this was something that just needed to be done. For the longest time, nobody really had a name for these people we just called them survivors, which really is just not a great name for anybody that lost a loved one like this. And the Gold Shield name just seemed like a very good fit. The military, the veterans have the Gold Star families, and we reached out to them, and they were very welcoming of this Gold Shield name, because firefighters, EMS, they all have some kind of badge or shield that they wear.
Yeah.
And so it's all inclusive. It's not just law enforcement, but it's all first responders.
My guest today is Lieutenant David Weiner with the Greenville County Sheriff's Office, and we're talking about the idea of creating Gold Shield Day. It would be June the 1st. The legislature is presently considering multiple bills. There's a companion bill in both the Senate and the House. Lieutenant, Gold Shield Day of course, as you mentioned, specifically honor surviving families of first responders. Let's talk about the importance that focus be on the families and not just the fallen officers, because there are days that we honor fallen officers, but as you just mentioned, I mean, where does that leave the families? And I applaud you and those who are working on this, because, the families, they're living with this every day.
Right. And like you say officers, I just want to be very specific here. This is not just for law enforcement. This is for firefighters. This is for EMS. This is for anybody, any type of first responder. That's what we're trying to recognize, and for their family specifically, because when the event happens, the family is surrounded by that community. But as the time passes on, that trauma still haunts them. And so this is that opportunity for us to recognize them and for them to know that we're still there to support them as a community, the state.
Yeah. Yep, and thank you for clarifying that, because you're right. I mean, this would be paramedics, correctional officers, anyone who is considered a first responder. And, I tend to focus on law enforcement because we hear about line of duty deaths among law enforcers more often than we do others. But let's take, for example, EMTs. I mean, we have situations that they're in very dangerous situations. Quite often the first to respond, sometimes before law enforcement gets there. And we've seen cases around the country of firefighters. Someone sets a fire and they're ambushing the firefighters as they come in. So there are a lot of dangerous situations, and so this is going to cover any first responder who is killed in the line of duty, right?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Yeah, and their family, of course, recognizing their family who continue to live with the grief of losing someone. In your experience with the sheriff's office, how does the loss of a first responder, a family member, affect not only the spouse, but the children, the mom, the dad, the brothers and the sisters? I mean, it's the entire family, right?
Of course, it affects everybody differently, I think, but it's all encompassing. It's a terrible thing. It's a tragedy, and we hope it never happens again. But unfortunately, it does.
Yep, Lieutenant David Weiner is my guest. If the bill becomes law and it appears that it is moving along pretty good, and there's a good chance that it will be placed on the governor's desk for his signature this year, what might observance of Gold Shield Day look like? Are we talking about ceremonies, moments of silence, public events? What does that look like?
Yeah, it's a great question, and one we were asked in subcommittee, and I don't 100% know that answer, but I think you're definitely headed down that right path. I could see, a moment of silence would be great, some solemn ceremonies where we honor these families, maybe have them as a guest of honor, some kind of like a prayer breakfast, things like that. These are the things I see happening on June 1st.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And from a morale standpoint, what does this mean to active first responders, knowing that the state formally recognizes the sacrifice of their brothers and sisters and their families? Right.
That their families will always be taken care of. You will not be forgotten.
Yep. And that's an important message that we have to put out there. Lieutenant Weiner, for the families listening who have already made that ultimate sacrifice, what message do you want them to hear about Gold Shield Day and the fact that people are acknowledging that this is something that we need to be doing?
I think it just tells the families, again, that they're not forgotten, and that if it happens, that we're always going to honor them.
Yep. As we talk about recognizing sacrifice through Gold Shield Day, there's another bill moving through Columbia that goes a step further, not just the recognition, but real support for families in the hardest moment of their lives. So let's shift, if we can, Lieutenant. And with me today is Lieutenant David Weiner with the Greenville County Sheriff's Office. Let's shift to Senate Bill 850, the Honor Our First Responders Act, and what would that mean for surviving spouses and children?
Yeah, sure. So a lot of people don't recognize that if a first responder is killed in the line of duty or dies in the line of duty, that typically at the end of that pay period, their family, if they're covered health insurance-wise by that first responder, they lose that health insurance. And that is just a tragedy. That should not happen. And I've seen that firsthand. And so with this bill, we've asked the state to cover the health insurance for that family, for that Gold Shield family, for 3 years, till they can get back on their feet, till they can get something else situated and move forward.
So this would be 3 years from the line of duty death. I would imagine that's going to be a pretty significant benefit for these families, right?
Yes, sir. It's a huge weight off their shoulders. If you talk to these Gold Shield families about something that they worry about, that's actually one of the big things they are concerned about. If they were covered under their loved one's insurance, this is one of their huge concerns.
And tell me again now, this involves law enforcement, firefighters, EMS. Tell me who all would fall under this umbrella.
That's correct. Any first responder, law enforcement, firefighters, EMS, full-time, part-time, volunteers, as long as they meet that criteria of being a first responder.
So if they're a first responder, even if they're a volunteer, say a volunteer firefighter, they would be included in this.
That's correct, sir.
Yeah. After the 3 years of state coverage, surviving spouses could continue coverage at group rates, is my understanding. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. They would have that opportunity to stay in the plan.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So where are we on the process, or in the process of this? Because obviously, this bill would cost money, and so there's going to have to be an appropriation in there. So what kind of feedback have you gotten so far from state legislators of finding some money in the budget to be able to fund this?
Sure. So 850 is assigned to a committee, and there's a companion bill in the House, 5139, and that's in Ways and Means, and it does require some finances. We're fortunate in South Carolina that not a lot of first responders are killed in the line of duty, and so it's a very low fiscal impact, and so it just needs a subcommittee hearing, and that gets the ball rolling and gets it moving closer to a vote.
Yeah. On our guest line today, Lieutenant David Weiner with the Greenville County Sheriff's Office. Now, I noticed on some of the notes, Lieutenant, that the bill defines what qualifies as a line of duty death, and I really hadn't thought about that. But so give us those details. What specifically would it cover?
Well, there's the obvious. I say obvious, but what most people, recognize, what a line of duty death would be, what they see, an officer being, a police officer being shot and killed or stabbed or things like that. But the bill itself would be including firefighters and EMS if they're killed doing some type of fire suppression or rescue operation. EMS providing medical care, but it also includes if they should unfortunately pass during some kind of required training or even off-duty intervention, something like that.
Yep. Lieutenant, let's kind of transition, and look, I applaud what you guys are doing. People who are listening to us today, what can they do to help with this?
The ask would be reach out to your state senator or state representative and ask them to help get this to a vote.
Yep. And again, those bills in the Senate Bill 850, and then Senate Bill 868, and as the lieutenant said, there's companion bills in the House for both of these as well. The companion bill for Senate Bill 850 is House Bill 5139. Just contact your state rep, your state senator, and just let them know that you support first responders, and they'll know what you're talking about. Tell them that you'd like to see this pass, send it to the governor's desk. That brings up a question. I mean, I'm assuming that Governor Henry McMaster supports this. Has there been any indication that for sure that he will sign it if it's put on his desk?
I don't know that I've directly heard anything from him, but I think that Governor McMaster is a very big supporter of first responders.
Yeah, he has been traditionally, so I would not foresee that being an issue at all. Lieutenant, it's always a pleasure to talk with someone who is a first responder. We appreciate what you do in our community. Talk with us a minute about the overall, law enforcement. First responders, firefighters, EMTs, we've seen some tough times over the years, particularly law enforcement. Talk with us about the general mood among first responders right now. Do you feel like you get support of the communities?
I think that we're very fortunate in the state, in South Carolina, that we are loved. The public, for the most part, supports law enforcement. They support firefighters. They support EMS, and we know that. We see it every day.
Yeah.
I know around the country that may not be true. I see it on the news. To our brothers and sisters out there, it's tough. But us here in South Carolina, we're very fortunate.
Well, I'm so glad to hear that, and just know that you got a lot of people around praying for your safety every day, and we certainly appreciate what you do to keep our community safe.
Well, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you for your time today. That's it for this special weekend edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.